Good evening. I'd like to call this Ashland Board of Health meeting to order on June 27, 2016 at 6:30 p.m. This meeting is being broadcast live on WACA-TV and will be rebroadcast numerous times by WACA. Check the WACA-TV website for details. The listing of matters above is reasonably anticipated by myself, the chair, which may be discussed at this meeting. Not all items on the agenda or other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. This agenda may be subject to change. So with that, the meeting is open.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
point of order. We're also taping it, and I don't know if anyone else is audio.
Is there any audio taping of this meeting?
No.
Seeing none, I will open up the floor for citizens' participation.
Ethan, my name's Mark Sony. I'll make this nice and quick for you, because I can see a whole pile of stuff that's got to be done. Thank you for opening this up and having this on the cable, so everybody at home is going to see what you actually do, and that people should trust the Board of Health, that the businesses are in good hands.
Thank you for that. Is there anybody else here tonight that would like to make a comment during citizens' participation? Seeing none, I think we all know why we're here tonight, the approval of permits for the calendar year 2016 under the jurisdiction of the Ashland Board of Health. There was much discussion in our last meeting about the validity. A couple members do not feel that they're, or were aware that their signatures were on them. We had a lengthy debate about the pros and cons of it. Council suggested that we be here tonight to take this action. Any questions?
Question, but did she exactly specify what the statement was for release of me, or just to take an action, and what action was she's recommending?
I spoke to council, and she recommended that we, the board, approve the permits that were issued in calendar year 2016, especially the annual ones that are done on a routine basis beginning of January 1st of 2016.
Is that for a reissue or issue?
She recommended they be validated and voted by the board. They're already out there as issued, as it has been a routine, but as we found out from council, they should be voted on by the board, and that is what is being asked of town.
I understand, but I also saw one of the forms has Ed Hart's signature, so we talking on his behalf may not be easy for me to do it, because I don't know whether he wanted it or not. So I would suggest a reissue would be in order.
Mr. Chair,
If
may.
that is...
Please, yeah, go ahead.
I spoke to Ed Hart. He has no problem with this.
You might have spoken, but we don't have it.
No, understandable,
Oh.
but trust what I tell you. Thank you.
I also don't think it matters, because as members come on boards and don't come on boards, their signatures do not invalidate. I mean, there are signatures of when I was chairman of the Board of Selectmen that have street assignments. That doesn't mean those streets don't exist, because I'm not a selectman anymore.
No, we are trying to validate what he has put the signature, but I don't know whether he wanted it or not. But if he has a statement to make, or has he given a letter to us saying that it's okay to do that, I would gladly take it as a fact. I would be a bit hesitant to do that unless, I don't mind reissuing it if that is not going to be an issue for people to do it.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
The issue really is, and this is what he said, when he signed his electronic signature, it was to allow permits to be processed. And the reason for that is that permits don't just come in the calendar year, they come throughout the year. And the other board members who may agree might feel the same way, and that's what the electronic signatures are utilized for, with the review by the staff that does the inspections, mostly myself, and, well, Diane Passafaro and myself. And there are other permits that issue right through the summer, including camps, beaches, and so forth. That is so that we can allow our businesses in this town to proceed without having to wait for a Board of Health meeting, and that has been the case in the past. But according to our town attorney, based on the concern that was brought to this board, indeed, it's up to the board to decide how you want to issue permits, but that would be the best way to do it by a vote of the board. Thank you.
If I may, John?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
I would take your word for granted saying that the permits do come at time of the year or some other time. But most of the permits that I have seen have a deadline of December 31st. I'm assuming that they all came in the January to renew it and then applied for it, unless something came in between and did it. So they probably come in bulk in the early part of January or late part of December for renewal.
Mr. Chair, if I may clear that up.
Yeah, sure.
That is not always the case. That assumption isn't the case. What happens is if it's a restaurant, yes, that is the case. But if it's an installer's license, a camp, they don't know if they're gonna be operating the farmer's market for those food permits, temporary food permits. They come in throughout the year. Ashland Day, you see food permits coming in at that time. So they're sporadic in that case, but you are correct. The standing restaurants and food establishments do come in, usually November, December. We send out a letter reminding them with the permit application, and that is how it's done.
So they constitute the bulk of the permits. To get restaurants are the bulk of them. And those probably have Mr. Edhart's signature on them. But
I don't understand this Ed Hart fixation.
No, 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 if you're-
Please let him finish, please let him finish.
what I'm saying is that if you're trying to revalidate what he has validated already, I'm overstepping on his authority to use his signature as valid. So I don't wish to do that, and I would rather have a reissue. That should not be a problem if that needs to be done. And I'm quite familiar how computers can generate these things in fraction of few seconds, and then should not be a problem for it, because most of them are generated by computer, not individually.
Mr. Hart is not a member of this board.
That
He
is
is
it.
a great member of this community, and this community
course.
owes him a great thank you for putting up with what he had to put up with the last couple of years on the Board of Health. But
Please,
he's not a
please,
member
point
of
of
this board.
order, point of order.
Excuse me, if you keep interrupting me like that, we're gonna have a point of order conversation. I am the chair of this board right now. If you wanna make changes, we will have that conversation, but you will not reprimand me on how I run this meeting. If you wanna talk about point of order, let's talk about how you handle it, okay?
John,
Mr.
please,
Chair,
no,
Mr.
no.
Chair,
John,
please
please.
allow me to
So we
speak.
know why we're
John.
here.
Point of order
No,
is
we're
a
done. We're
request,
moving on.
is a
We're moving on,
request
guys.
of the
We're moving
chair.
on.
John.
We're moving
That
on.
is part of parliamentary
We're moving
procedure.
on, folks.
Point of
We're
order is
moving
part
on.
of parliamentary
We
procedure,
are
John.
moving on, folks.
Look, I would
We
like
have
to
a lot
point
of
out
work
to
to
the
do.
camera that Mark Oram requested, this is why I was informed, that there'd be 2 actively on-duty police officers here today. And
We
at
are
this
moving on,
point,
Judy.
I am afraid to make a point of order, which
Judy,
is a
we are
legitimate
moving on.
action.
I'm going to give you
May I-
one more chance to
may-
stop the progress of this meeting. We are moving on.
John.
We are here tonight to talk about the permits.
John.
We have the approval of the permits.
John, can I?
Do we want to take action on this?
John, can
May
I?
I have
From
not
the
yet
point
had
of John,
Yes.
opportunity to speak.
since we've had all this turmoil over all these permits and all the electronic signatures, et cetera, we have an elected chairman of the board who is responsible to communicate with the newspapers, the TV, with town accountants, town attorney, with the town manager. It would seem right that he be the person to sign the permits, which would eliminate all this, pardon the expression, baloney that we're getting over this. That would solve the problem. I'd like to make a motion that in the future, that is what's done. There's one signature, the chairman of the board, and that's it.
May I ask for a clarification on the Attorney Mead's position?
Yes, you may.
And thank you, John, for letting me to speak. And I do want to, now that I have the floor, I do want to object at your attacks and the inferences that there are people who've done things wrong in the past. John,
No,
John, I
that
have
was-
the
those
floor,
words did not
please.
come out of my mouth.
Please allow me to continue on the
Please
topic
do.
of the
Please
permits.
do.
Because that is what we're here, and these other comments, personal attacks, are not helpful. So what I wanted to clarify is what I had requested, I think 3 times in the last several days to you in an emails, which I had not gotten a response for. I was requesting what the attorney's response was, and I did not get a response, and this is the first I hear of it. I have to wonder what her logic is concerning the post-approval, whether you're able to take a document and have it post-approved. The intent of an electronic signature by Massachusetts law is clear that at the time of the placing of the signature, that must have been the intent. And the way I also read the law, which someone could possibly inform me more thoroughly on, but that, well, the way I have read the law is that electronic signatures are not to be used for routine processing such as payroll, and they actually say that in the interpretation of that they're supposed to be applied specifically for a specific event as it occurs. And I also believe that we should be acting in the best interest. I actually prepared a statement because I was concerned that I would be interrupted while I speak, and oftentimes that throws me off and does not give me the ability to actually express my full opinion. So I could either state it now, or I could do it after a motion during a discussion, whichever, but I would appreciate being able to make this statement.
Well, I think if you prepared a statement, you should have the opportunity to do that, but I would like to get to we can do that, and you have my word that we can do that, but this is why we're here. The approval of the permits for calendar year 2016.
There actually were some questions about the ones that I was provided last week.
Okay.
Is this a good time to ask those? Los Cabos, I actually went into that restaurant the evening before our last meeting. I took a photograph of a permit that had 4 signatures on it. I see in my packet that there is a permit with 5 signatures. I had requested over the last several days for clarification whether these were photocopies of the duplicates that are required to be maintained by Massachusetts law, or if they were regenerated permits. There were also forms that had everything complete except the, as if it was caught on either a printer or on a copy machine, everything complete except the permit number.
I'm not trying to interrupt you, but for clarity for the board and the members at the table, can you show us that picture?
I'm not sure I can do it now. I could send it to you easily for tomorrow.
Well, but
I could
it's
send it-
not relevant. Once again, we're not acting as a board. If all the board doesn't have the information, it's not relevant information. We can't act on something that we don't have in front of us.
Well, I would appreciate if you would take my word and I can back it up with photo evidence. Based
on this, I'm not saying
So
it's not a valid point,
there is 4 signatures on that document. My concern is that what we're being presented are not actually the duplicates as
I would ask that if you're going to bring an allegation like that, you have documentation to back it up, and it doesn't seem like we have that. So let's move on to the next subject.
The next item would be Metro West Ministries. I noted on the permit, there were 5 signatures, but I have specifically a question about issuing a permit for 2 addresses, 280 and 350 Pleasant Street. And what is the process? If these were 2 Dunkin' Donuts that were, several lots apart from each other owned by the same individual, would they be issued 1 permit or 2 separate ones?
And if I may, we've seen this before with the Warren Conference Center, where they have more than 1 building that is under the same permit, as well as this church.
That would be one on the same property, where this is actually separate properties, and one is the Dream Station. I understand one is the Dream Station daycare center. The other one is the Connects Church. What you're telling me is that they're under the same ownership, so that 1 permit has been issued for 2 separate locations with actually different functions, but you're saying because they have the same ownership, similar to a franchise Dunkin' Donuts, which might have 2 locations, and, in densely populated areas, sometimes they're very close together, not necessarily in our town.
Correct that if you want, Mr. Chair.
Please.
It's not similar to Dunkin' Donuts, and now we're advertising for them. This is setup kitchens. They're not kitchens that are like Dunkin' Donuts. These are setup kitchens, part of a ministry, at both their school and their worship facility. So you can't compare the 2, Judy. There's not similar to Dunkin' Donuts. Thank you.
In their function, but I would question, Mr. Chair, whether they actually do require 2 separate permits. And the last thing that I have here written down, because I've been looking through the permits, I haven't found the ones. There are several that were in there that had no fees. Some of them were pretty obvious. It may be property in Ashland. A couple of them that I didn't understand as to why we had not issued fees, and unfortunately have not been able to pull them out. But Boston Nut Roasters is one of those that's in there. And it said previously known as Lloyd's Lemonade. My question is concerning that. I thought Boston Nut Roasters is actually a brand name, like Ben and Jerry's ice cream. So I wanted some information concerning how that could have been issued to a brand name, I want to say, rather than a corporate name. And I'm not sure if that is the one, but there's one in there that also includes a P.O. box rather than an actual address. And I was surprised that we would issue a permit not to an actual physical location, especially since the importance of food contamination and other potential issues of need to follow up, that we would have a P.O. box.
I can look into the file, Mr. Chair. It's most likely, if I may explain, your P.O. boxes are typically your temporary facilities. We know where the issue is that you don't have the files, and they're offered to you. They're here right now, but we have limited time. That's up to the chair on that. But as it relates to P.O. boxes, most likely they're a vendor that came in to work at a farmer's market or a temporary event such as Ashland Day. Same with the farmer's market. So I can easily look that up for you. That's not a problem.
I appreciate that they're files. As you know, I've been asking for those for probably a year to actually see the permits, and
Mr.
to
Chair,
see.
if I may speak
Yeah,
point
I'm
of
still
order on
talking,
that.
I'm
If
still
one-
talking.
Judy,
Didn't allow a
Judy.
point of order from
That's
me.
an
Judy.
accusation
Judy,
that's false.
please.
That's an
And-
accusation that's false,
What-
Mr. Chair.
Okay.
It is. Files are
Once
valid.
May I
again,
continue talking?
Can I?
I can
for-
back that statement. It's a statement. I can back it up
Judy,
with
please,
emails.
please, for a point of order, we're here tonight candidly because two members of our board took issue that their signatures were used. So that's what we're here to address tonight. The validity of their signatures and the validity of the permits. As you both know, I strongly said that these permits were valid. Council says that they're valid. Are we gonna take action on moving these, or are we just gonna argue all night?
May I, if you don't mind, please,
Please.
John? I know that we did state the fact that the signatures were issued because we were not told where it's being used. And on farmers market, when they were told, I asked for a list of vendors that they are giving it to, and they gave it to me. I authorized to use it.
Mhm.
So we were incognizant about where they were going on earlier. Okay, I don't mind using it if it's properly handled. The other factor is I also looked at way back, I believe February, March, I can't pin down the date. I had looked at a sample of application forms, which I did send a mail to Mark today, and I have mentioned about these things before, for some deficiency or some lack of information on the application forms. But the state law does require them to completely fill the application forms. And in one case that I saw, there was no trained person to handle anti-choke.
Once again, do we have this information and we can share with the entire board?
The
It's brought up at a past meeting.
document or the,
Once again, we're in a
what
public
you need?
meeting.
You need a specific,
And you're bringing up something that probably has some validity,
Yeah.
but we have to have
Well,
copies so
I
the
only-
board can discuss.
it's there in your file, you can look at it, and I don't know which 15 of those that you gave it to me, pull those 15, I can
So
pull
the
up and then
answer
give
is
it to
no,
you.
you don't have it.
I do.
Well, can you share with the board?
New England Hindu Temple doesn't have a trained
Can you
anti-choke.
share
but
that
I don't
document
have a
with the board?
document, I didn't copy it.
Okay.
I did not copy it
Well,
because
do you have a
it was,
copy? Do you
I
have a
don't, they
copy
have the
of
copy. 'Cause I do not copy the paperwork, that applications that they put it in my pocket. I don't keep it. It's against principle that they have it here. Mark has told me
It's
not to
against
copy it, I've never
principle?
copied it.
What do you mean it's against principle?
That's what he told me, I didn't copied it, I never copied it.
I never said that. Again,
That was the thing.
false accusation
And then,
is all I can say.
well, there could be personal information, so I don't copy it, I don't Xerox it, no.
Again, if you're talking about New England's worship.
Anybody at New England Hindu Temple, or there are other issues that I have.
Okay.
I'll
Copies of
I'll lay it here, but I don't have the evidence in my pocket, but it's in the file there. I note it down, they're out there, but I didn't. Let
Just
me,
so there's no further
let-
confusion, and I'm
let-
sure it wouldn't be confusing for most, but if we have an issue, we have to bring documents.
that is,
We have to
I
bring
understand.
documents.
I understand, but
We have to act like
let
a
me lay
board.
the issues
We
down,
have to act like
and
a board.
then continue further, okay?
You can't be rogues.
If I can add one thing to that comment, I had requested same things of Michael Herbert in emails throughout the last several days. And yesterday, very morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, I put that that they're 40%, over 40%, is exactly what he's referring to in an email to you, John. It has been reported that on a small sample survey, more than 40% of the 2016 permit applications have not been properly completed. That was in my email to you Monday, the 27th at 8:34 a.m.
This morning, yes.
And I,
Yesterday.
Monday.
So
That-
not yesterday.
may I continue
Well,
that,
it's
please?
today is Monday, I'm sorry.
Correct.
May
You
I-
are correct, we usually
May
have Tuesday
may I
meetings.
continue that if you don't mind?
No, go.
Yeah, I did inform Mark very same day that there is deficiencies and incompleteness in the
But
application
once
forms.
again, we don't have the document in front of us, so I don't.
There's no incomplete, it's full. They have the certified food manager, which.
Right,
was
do they have a trained staff that they
They
train
do.
for anti-choke?
They have US certified food manager.
No,
And-
anti-choking.
Anti-choke doesn't apply to the worship center.
It doesn't say that.
It doesn't apply.
The law doesn't say that. Law says everywhere.
Okay.
It doesn't apply, it's
Okay,
restaurants.
I gotta call
Okay,
point of
maybe.
order.
All right.
What is going on here?
Hang
on.
What-
Okay.
what is,
Hang
what,
on.
what is going on here?
Are you
John,
going to lecture us again,
John,
John? Please
Maybe
don't.
I will, yeah.
Please don't.
Maybe I will. But
It's
what is
just not
going, what
appropriate.
is the point here, guys?
The point is that we are not complying with the regulations.
Who's not complying? You're
Us.
not complying?
Us.
Us?
Not me.
Why?
I
He
ca- I
just
don't
showed
own
you a
restaurant.
valid permit.
Mr. Chair, can we
Let me
continue to
go with
allow
the
him
other
to
one.
speak to the issues?
Let me go to the next one.
Okay.
I found there are 2 application forms which had no signature. And there was a third one which said that they owe taxes. So
Okay.
these are the things that we are supposed to check and make sure that they're cleared out and then issue the permit.
Okay, once
That's what-
again, can you provide that document for this board?
If you give me time, I'll take down that file, sit down there and then get it for you, but I know you don't have time. I know you don't have time.
We scheduled this for 25
And
minutes.
then I've raised these issues before, and they were supposed to take a diligent action on it, which had not happened. I have raised this before in a meeting, and nobody told me that it's
Yes.
cleared or completed. So where would I put the blame on? It's us.
I
we
don't
have
try
to
to
take the
put
blame
blame
on
on
it.
people. We have to take action on stuff, so.
I understand.
Mr. Chair, if I may, the recommendation of our town attorney was approval of permits for calendar year 2016 as noted on the agenda.
I also asked every time that they go to the attorney, get it in writing. Nobody bothers to get it in writing from the attorney. I don't know why. Is there an issue with for her to give it as in writing?
I read it in the newspaper.
The attorney's
I
opinion?
mean, should we rely on the newspaper for everything?
I'm just telling you where I saw it.
The
And
attorney's opinion on
so,
it-
once again, off topic, approval of permits for calendar year 2016. Do we want to take action?
I would like to add one last thing at this point, because this was in my email to you, but I sent several emails last week to Town Manager Michael Herbert, who actually is Mark Orm's boss. That's the way it's structured in this town, that the health director works for the town manager. So what I put in these emails was actually a part of Massachusetts General Law 105, CMR 590, in that the Board of Health may renew a permit for an existing food establishment or issue a permit to a new owner of an existing food establishment after a properly completed application is submitted, renewed, and approved. The fees are paid, and an inspection shows that the establishment is in compliance with 105 CMR 590. And what I had been going back and forth with the town manager over the last several days is that process has not been known to us. This is the first time I'm seeing those folders, and I've already pointed out to you that I have several emails to confirm my requests over the last year. That's all I'll say on that, but I did want to read my one statement, and I can do it now or later.
Well, you can do it later. Once again, approval of permits?
I'll make a motion that we approve the permits as written with the electronic signatures.
Second.
Discussion?
Can the motion be modified to include all of the names, because I don't believe we're aware of which permits there are. There are many different categories: animal holding of animals, beaches, pools, I believe.
I will rephrase it,
Okay.
that we, yeah.
Are you amending the?
I'm amending the motion to say all permits issued by the Board of Health. Therefore, we will not have to list every name and every business. All permits issued by the Board of Health.
The calendar year.
Yes.
Is that one en bloc? Is that one en bloc approval?
That's what the motion is.
Okay, I may have to recuse it, please.
So further discussion?
Yes, I question the consul's, the representation by Mark Oram as to what the consul's opinion is. I'm not an attorney. I would actually question how one can retroactively approve something that is already out there, especially since electronic signatures are used. That would be the first item. The second item is that my electronic signature was used on those. And if, for some reason, this board felt that they wanted to vote in the majority on that, I would not want my name nor my signature in a position where it misrepresents my stance on this. And I think probably at this point, if you allow me to, it's not that long a statement. I would appreciate if I could read my statement.
Mr. Chair, before that, if I can just finish on that comment. Board member Mary Mortensen made a note that the chair signed. So if indeed the board decides to vote in favor and it's a split vote, but a favorable vote, then that may solve the problem with electronic signatures, that the chair's signature only go on it, and the chair has that purview of approval of the permits as noted. Is that what you were trying to do, Mary?
Yes.
I don't want to speak for you, but I think
Yes.
that might help solve. We would have to reissue
Would
all the
absolutely
permits,
solve
but-
the problem. We wouldn't go
we
through
could do
this
that.
again another year.
All right, so we got a couple different things. We've got Mary's motion, Charlie has seconded the motion. Judy
I-
would like to read her statement, so I think now probably
Before
would be the best time.
Can I take a minute before I have a question here, before Judy starts? We approved this farmer's market permit, didn't we?
I can't see what you're handing me.
This
Can
is
you hand it
farmer's market permit that you have.
That's the farmer's market, okay.
Yeah, that we already approved it, isn't it? You I okayed it and then you
By-
took care of it. So
by
why are we
four-
redoing it again?
It's for last year, isn't it?
Oh, this is 216.
So what happened was I sent out an email
Mm-hmm,
to all the board members,
fine.
asking indeed if you wanted your electronic signatures on it, because there was concern.
Mm-hmm,
And 4 out of the 5 said it was okay.
okay. So then why are we again redoing it?
I don't see, well,
Because-
again, you're just
because there's-
reconfirming your electronic signature
Of all of our
of
signatures.
all the permits,
Of all the
really.
permits.
I mean, they could stand, but you have a member that doesn't want her signature on it, from what I'm hearing, so that's why I think Mary made the
Fine.
best suggestion.
Her signature is not on this, right?
That's
I'm
correct.
talking about the
So then
ones,
it's a valid permit when you have 3 or more.
those
So we have
permits are
3
already.
people's signature or 4 people's signature on it, including mine. So they're valid. Why are we redoing that pile?
Well, it gets very difficult if one member doesn't want to sign, I can see.
I mean, she may not want to
exempting
sign
yourself.
again, who knows?
All I can say is that you have businesses out there, the town attorney said we need to validate the permits that were already issued. That's what you're here for, that's why it was put on the agenda that way.
Well, were these not validated at all? These were issued recently, about a week back or something,
Again,
right?
You remember, I just noted, 4 out of 5 board members said that's why we gave you the electronic signatures to issue permits.
If you don't have a
4 out of
problem with
5,
it,
I
that
know,
you
I-
agree that you're
then what's the
elected?
problem?
4 out of 5.
If 4 out of the members don't have a problem with it, then what's the problem with
Correct.
revalidating
But
them?
why do we have to redo the job that we already did? That's what I'm asking. Why are we wasting time on redoing a job like that already did?
We're not wasting time on it. The motion was
I
that
mean,
we were
did-
going to
didn't they-
revalidate
didn't
all
they-
the
didn't- didn't
permits.
Didn't they spend time in preparing
All.
the sheet?
All,
You're revalidating all?
all.
Yes.
All 2016, just for clarification?
That is correct.
And-
That's all you can
So
do.
the ones in 2015?
Those are already expired.
if
Those
it's-
permits have expired.
If it's being
Yet that-
revalidated all, I may have to recuse it, so.
Yet they may have legal
All right, is
implications.
there anything new discussion?
Okay, so I'll read this if it's okay. My objective here today is to make a better Ashland. Like other board members here today, I'm vested in doing the best that we can for the people of our town. Ashland is a great town. We have that small town feeling with friendly people and strong neighborhood businesses. Every day, this mix comes together to provide many opportunities for businesses to flourish. We, as a Board of Health, are more than a regulatory board. Our legislative responsibility is to ensure that needs of the public health and safety are being met. It is not only legally required, it is morally and ethically required. The people deserve no less. When it comes to our legislative responsibilities in the permitting process, businesses who every day are doing the right thing have nothing to fear. Actually, it is those businesses who day in and day out are doing a good job, who are helped by a town-wide representation of quality. Customers look to access the businesses and services in a town known for its diligence. And those businesses who fall short of minimum standards have every opportunity to make the needed adjustments. It's not part of my written statement, but these are my factors for why I had suggested and made a motion last meeting for temporary certificates to be issued so that we could examine our procedures. Our conversations tonight about the issuance of permits is not about harming business. It is about adhering to the laws that have been put in place to protect the public. Last week, our board addressed two concerns. First, our board did not authorize the town manager's health director/agent with 33 years of experience to unilaterally issue over 200 permits during approximately a one-year time. And secondly, the health director/agent used electronic signatures on official town documents without individual signers' intent or authorization. In the best interest of our town citizens and businesses, we need to find ways to effectively go forward. I support proactive decisions by our board, instilling public confidence by forming a committee of community experts to advise our board on this issue of food inspections and other permits. The committee's immediate task would be to incorporate the Food and Drug Administration 2011 risk-based inspection regulations into our board practices. Just as a side note, this is something that the town of Sherburne, where Mark Oram had always had actually been their health agent, had adopted in their comments. So we need to provide leadership. This topic is of increased importance to me because of my past participation as the chair of Boston's Tufts Medical Center Nutritional Support Team, on which I served with infectious disease experts, physicians, nutritionists, and clinically specialized nurses. I care about this issue. I care about this issue of all the permits, whether they're food or anything else, because there's many different, possibly 12 different categories here. The permitting process is one step of many steps, but put in place by the Massachusetts general laws to ensure public safety. We, as Board of Health, have the obligation to protect the public by adhering to all aspects of the law. That's my statement. I can give you a copy if you'd prefer.
Thank you, because the entire board will need a copy of that. Just for clarity purposes, how was that statement delivered?
How is it delivered? I just read it.
Was that delivered as a citizen? Was that delivered as a position of the member of the Board of Health, or was that or as a statement for the Board of Health?
You asked that because?
Because I'd like to know the answer.
As a member of the Board of Health.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain. I do not have adequate information.
So that vote passes on a 3-0-2?
No, I've recused it, not abstained.
Okay, so 3-0. So you,
I question Board Member Charlie Legassi's role in not abstaining, not recusing, excuse me.
on what grounds?
Metro West Ministries.
All right.
That's one of the reasons why I asked you why you wanted to vote all in block.
I will make a motion that we approve all the food permits for the calendar year 2016 that do not involve the conflict of interest with Board Member Legacy.
I'll second it.
Further discussion?
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yep.
this gives KG a chance maybe to exempt himself if he wishes from one permit, if you so wish, KG. That way you
That's why I'm accused, because
Yeah.
last time when the permit was issued, my signature was put on without my knowledge, and then I have to go and call the ethics department to find out that somebody did it, and I have to recuse myself from
But
all
I
these.
was asking-
That
I don't know
was
if he
that
wants to
was
recuse himself.
that was way outside my limit. Now I'm spending 4 or 5 hours to talk to the ethics down to clear this.
If you'd like to recuse yourself now.
I
and
do.
vote.
I do have to recuse myself.
Okay.
So he's recusing from New England Hindu.
So you're recusing from New England Hindu, and you're recusing from?
Metro West Ministries.
So my motion is that we approve all of those permits except for these 2 that our board members have conflicts with.
And I will again second
Hang
that
on.
motion.
Before you do that, you already voted on something, so what do you want to do with that?
We're redoing the vote right now.
Is that how you do it, or
That's how we're doing it.
rescind the votes first?
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
I would like to add some discussion.
Okay.
I just wanted to note that Charles Legacy's signature on the copy that I got was on Metro West Ministries, and also KG's signature was on the temples, which they're both now recusing on. So I consider actually this sloppiness, and I am concerned as an overall aspect of, that's why I made this statement, the town deserves better.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Please.
on this motion, once it's complete, the board can motion to approve the Hindu temple and the Metro West Ministries with the appropriate signatures.
Which was my intention.
Okay, I figured that, but I just want to let you know.
So any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Abstain.
All opposed?
I'm abstaining.
Any abstentions?
I abstain due to lack of information.
So we have a 3-2 vote. Now, do you want to clean up the elements?
Yes. I would like to make a motion that in the future, all permits issued by the Board of Health are signed solely by the chairman, who was elected by the board to do, to make the representation of the board.
John?
Yes.
Before you do that, you don't want the Metro West not to have the permit. So don't you want to run a permit for that
Ms.
first?
Mortensen was speaking, so she's made a motion.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I have no problem seconding that.
Second? Further discussion?
Are we, to clarify, is that with a vote of the board, or is that a unilateral authorization to the chair to tell the town manager's health director to issue them? What is the intent there? Is that after a vote of the board, or is that
She's confused.
with no vote?
Mary, you want to clarify?
Did I hear I'm confused?
I was saying this
I would like to
confusion on the
clarify
motion-
that. Due to the problems that we've had trying to get these permits done, it would be much simpler and better for the town and the citizens not to have to listen to this kind of foolishness when we have a person that's elected to represent the board with the newspapers, the TV, and he should be the one to sign the permits. That takes away all the problems. They have one person to go to, and that's it.
And, Mr. Chair, if I may, the point of order, the confusion in my belief was, it was just a point made that it would be the health agent director. This is for the chairperson, correct,
Yes.
Mary?
That's correct.
That's where the confusion was. I thought there was. Thank you.
I think it's true broad and authority to give it in advance. And
Yes.
I would rather tread very carefully on that. And this could go into several other aspects of the board's decision. For everything, the chair could represent the board and finish it off, and then the existence of the board is moot.
No.
And I understand, John, you may be right, but the next person who is going to be chair may be a different person, or so we don't know. So we got to think carefully before we vest our powers with one individual.
John?
And
Massachusetts.
the fact is that these papers were never brought to the board when they were supposed to be brought, probably in December or January when these were done. So that's where the error is, that's where the mistake is. It's not the board members did anything wrong with it.
John, can I
So
answer that point?
Yeah, please.
That point has not been brought to the table or the media. I know that Mark did admit it, and then he did say that this was
Mr. Chair,
because of, oh, well.
Guys, we
Let,
have.
let him finish, please, let him finish.
Excuse me, I've asked you not to do that. How many times?
John.
You're not running this meeting.
John.
Now, please,
Let's-
you, KG, I would recommend that you seriously use your words in a
I
more
did.
productive way.
It
You
is.
have made allegations after allegations tonight that I don't think
John.
are
Swami.
founded, and I don't think it's in the
Sir,
best interest
sir.
of the town of Ashland
John.
if you do that.
John.
Mary, you wanted to speak.
Yes, I just wanted to answer KG's comment that we don't know who's going to be chairman of the board. Well, it's us that elects the chairman of the board. And if we don't feel that he's responsible to take the position, we shouldn't be voting for him. So it would make sense that the chair has the responsibility to handle this, and that should be it.
May I, John?
Please, finish. But
Bet-
please, keep the
between,
accusation.
between the previous term and this term, there has been a remarkable difference between the chairmanship. And some of our agenda items have come in onto the table, and we've been able to discuss things, which is an improvement from what we have seen it.
Yes.
And the statement that I made about who admitted about the papers are not being is recorded in the WACA-TV last week. You can go back and listen to it. It stated it. I've just restated the fact that was admitted. And it is not that the board members' fault if we don't see the paperwork here.
Do you recall?
And then I would ask you to think through before you make a statement at me.
Mr. Chair, if I may?
You will, and then I will have a comment, please.
No, just, again, the accusations, I think it's not productive as well. And as the board knows, the electronic signatures, when I saw them being signed, was for the purposes of permits. I said that at the beginning of the meeting, I will continue to say that. Just because they weren't voted on, it again was the process that we used, KG. So I again, and both to you and Judy, do not respect your false accusations. Thank you.
John, may I?
Can I just comment
Please.
now?
Please.
There was a comment made to me, I would appreciate the floor also.
I'm sitting here tonight thinking last Tuesday, we could have never sunk to a lower level than we sunk last Tuesday. Well, we have tonight. And I sit here with heavy heart and I'm holding on my hands because I don't want to lose my temper. And I made the statement last Tuesday night that I thought certain board members were politicizing this. And I said that because that's the way I felt. Now I just feel you guys are just being mean. You're being mean. I'm speaking.
Sure.
You're
Okay.
being mean.
Sorry, I thought you were
You're
done.
being mean-spirited, and you're not being professional. Thank you.
I would actually like to address that immediately by getting back to the order of the agenda rather than the personal attacks. Let's get back to the public's, the people's business, rather than this.
And to
The
that point, we have a
discussion,
motion on the table and a
discussion of the
second.
motion
We have a
has to
motion
do
on the
with
table.
clarification of what the motion is and what authority that is giving the board chair. My question still is out there. Does that mean that is by the action of the majority of the vote, or is that by the action of the chair?
John, I would like to speak on the,
All right, let's clarify. We've got a couple motions on the table. We have a motion from Mary. Can you clarify the motion because of
Which one?
the last one that you made about having the chair be
Okay.
the only signature
The-
going forward?
The chairman is the elected head of our board. He is the one that communicates with the newspaper.
He or she.
He or she, right. With the newspaper, with the town manager, with the TV, and he should be the one to sign the permits. The possibility of getting 5 people in at different times to sign permits is ridiculous. It should be one person, since we can't use the electronic signatures, one person, and it's over and done with.
John, if I may.
Streamline the
So that's-
process.
And that you second that, right?
I have no problem with just one
Second.
person signing
John.
the permits.
Yes.
But that,
You know, the question of 5 people signing at one place, it's happening in the Concom. We all come and do the signatures. That's not a problem. So that's a moot point in terms of stating that people do volunteer, people do spend time and they come here. Going back to the statement.
Well, we have a
the-
motion and
I
a second.
understand. I
Further
understand.
discussion
We're
on the
having
motion?
discussion.
Further discussion
we're
on the
having
motion?
discussion.
Further discussion on the motion.
It's still not clear to me. What it sounds like is the motion is giving the chair the authority that the Massachusetts law requires the Board of Health to vote on. So is this to apply a signature after a vote? That's my question. Or is it to apply a signature because issuing of permits and those applications and the inspections are considered so routine that the board can give up its designated by law duty and authorized one individual to make that decision by adhering his or her signature. I still am not clear as to the motion.
I don't know if I can make it any clearer.
Yeah, I find it self-explanatory. So,
But tell me what that definition is, please.
Can I speak?
please.
I understand the motion to be that the chair of this board would have the authority to sign after the board made a vote to approve permits. So
Would-
it's not taking away the authority of the board to meet and vote on whether it's caterers permits or animal permits or tobacco permits or food establishment permits. So we need to vote each year, November, December, for approving the following year's permits, and then the chair would sign those permits when they're prepared. That's how I see it.
Yes.
Thank you for the clarification. Would Mary, would you be interested in modifying your motion to include that?
That was my understanding of the way it was going to be, Judith. It did not need modification.
So further discussion?
That needs a clarification. Why not expand that definition so that it's clear for everybody, so that everybody else could join hands and then vote for it?
I'm sorry, KJ, I didn't understand.
What Charlie said was more clearer and explanatory than what Mary has proposed, so I would appreciate that wordings can be added on, saying that it does require a board vote, and then one signature will go on it, that is the chairman's signature. Is that what you explained?
That's my understanding,
Yeah.
yep.
And that was that's how we have it drafted, right, Laura?
The last question I would have in that discussion, because I appreciate that, and I'm still waiting for that modification, but if possible. But the question I have is the signature process is being vested in one individual, and if that individual is unavailable, even though I would believe that most of these permits are applied for a month in advance, this is not last-minute things when you apply for a permit. And on a rare occasion, they may be an oversight where they could be time sensitive. My concern, once again, it's if that individual's not here. I know when Mary was chair, she was gone for extended periods, and that was a problem.
That's why we have electronic signatures.
Exactly.
That's the whole reason why we have electronic signatures. Isn't that a little ironic?
Full circle.
I understand, but
Surprise, surprise.
would the chair who was absent in a meeting where the approval was done would prefer to have his or her electronic signature attested?
But
Is
that's
that
why we have
okay?
a vice chair,
So the
who,
wi- so you will-
as of this board, doesn't have a problem with his
so
electronic
I
signature
understand.
being
So
used.
you will also have a vice chair added onto that thing, or the vice chair would do the signature? That's what it
If the
is?
vice chair ran that meeting,
Hmm?
that's just mass
So
general
it's
law of
the,
how,
it's-
then
if the
his signature.
chair of the meeting who runs on that day would sign it, is that what
Yes.
you want? Not the chairman of the board?
Guys, we're not reinventing the wheel here. This is the way the town has operated, since 1846, okay? I mean, that's,
I understand.
Electronic signatures?
It's not electronic signature.
no, doing the best things for the town of Ashland.
Right.
Is my
Indeed,
point.
that's it.
Right.
They did vote
All right, so,
Yeah,
no
understand.
other new discussion?
Understanding is either the chair's signature or the vice chair's signature will go there, whoever is on the day on which it was approved chairing the session. Is that?
And Mr. Chair,
That's the
for
way we've always
clarification,
done things. yes.
the board's
No,
majority.
the chair,
oh, sorry.
the signature is different. Signature is chair signature when the chair sits in the boardroom on that day when he approves it. It'll be vice chair signature if it's vice chair, so that's why the,
Mary, would you like to amend your motion one more time?
sorry,
Sure.
sorry for that, but clarity is important.
The permits would be signed by the chairman, and in his absence, the vice chair.
After the board approves the permit.
That's already in there,
After
I'm
the
just
board
adding
approves
that.
it.
That's,
With a majority vote, right?
And if
Right.
I'm not mistaken, the Board of Health has approved permits for 2016.
That's correct.
So if
Yes.
permits come in, they get signed by the chair. Because we
Yes.
will get permits for Ashland Day, and we have permits for tanning and other things right now. Thank you.
But just for a clarification, they'll come before the board before, and the board will vote prior to that signature being attached.
I was of the understanding, Mr. Chair, if I may,
Mhm.
that 2017 will be the next time the board
Right.
will be voting on permits.
oh, if somebody else
So
comes here
the
now for an
vote was
application, then what happens?
pre-
That was my
was-
motion, was to start with the new fiscal year,
Calendar.
which would be 17.
It wasn't
Calendar year.
retroactive, it was it was going forward, anything coming to the,
Whatever. It's up to you.
what were the words of that motion? I thought it was the existing permits that
We
were
voted
were
for the
in.
existing permits, and I then made a motion
Which
that
passed.
for future permits, they would be signed by the chair, in his absence by the vice chair.
So
After a
if-
vote
So
of the
both-
board.
Both motions have passed.
So let's,
After a vote of the board?
let me ask you a question. If future means if somebody comes up in 10 days and opens up a restaurant and then wants to get a permit, would that come before the board? That
Yes, it
falls under the future, or that
Yes.
doesn't fall under the future?
Yes.
That's not what I
Falls under
just
the
I
heard.
mean, guys, where I get frustrated with this is that, okay, you guys can sit there and say you didn't authorize it, you didn't authorize it. Do you guys live in Ashland? I mean. you
Please,
go-
let's
you-
get back to the business
you
of
go
the
to-
people,
no.
not the
John,
attacks.
No,
John,
there
Not the
is no
personal
attack,
attacks.
it's a question.
John,
If
John.
you-
It's
If
the
you're attacked
personal
by a
attacks.
question, maybe
John.
I
It's
suggest
the
you go find
personal
another
attacks.
board
Let's get
decision.
John.
back, let's get back to the
John.
agenda.
So my question is, you
John,
guys sit
can I-
there and say you weren't aware of all this?
Can
Once
I-
again, you have to clarify
John.
that to me, because it doesn't make
John,
sense.
to-
And that's where I come, you
John.
guys are just being
John,
mean-spirited.
John, that doesn't help.
No, it does help.
It doesn't
It
help.
does
Get back to
help.
the
Okay.
people's
Trust me, it
business,
does.
It
John.
doesn't build
And is
confidence.
this the
in-
people's business, Judy?
It doesn't build.
Is this the people's business?
It doesn't
All right.
build- it
So we
doesn't-
have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? No opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain. I believe that the motion was very confusing and is still yet unclear.
Okay. All right, we do have an issue where we have two, or actually probably three permits that are not, we have the one for the temple
In favor.
and two for the Metro West Ministries, correct? One for the Metro West Ministries?
Before we go on, could I just ask for a point of clarification? The permits that are out there, will they all be coming down?
One abstention.
No,
No.
no.
My electronic signature is on those without my approval.
The board voted tonight to say that they were with your approval.
No.
Can't
I'm
vote my
sorry.
approval. Only
I
I
can't-
can
I-
give
You
you my
signed the
intent.
paper.
I,
And that goes back to my
but-
question that you labeled as an attack, which I don't understand.
Sure.
But you know these permits are out there. You have a fiduciary responsibility to, to those. If you don't want your signature going forward, I find that to be extremely valid concern and issue. But my point, which was not an attack, it was a question, is you have a fiduciary responsibility to know what's going on in your board and in your town, and those signatures have been out there for a long time. So I don't still understand how you didn't authorize them or know that they existed.
John, these are the same questions that you berated me with at the last meeting, and there's no reason to go back to this. I did make a
The only reason
statement.
we're
I
here
stand
tonight is
on my
because of
statement.
these
If I could finish,
issues.
please. I stand on the statement that I read.
Okay.
And your accusations do not move us forward. So I am officially requesting for the town of Ashland to remove my electronic signatures from all places where it may have been used.
Well, I don't believe we have the authority to do that.
No, those have been issued and sent out.
Issued and sent out. So there's
There
two
is.
permits that,
With our signatures on things, we are actually it's more than signing a PIN pad when you go to the grocery store, which is, I think, what I put in my email to Michael Herbert, or the Verizon PIN pad. It's more than that. So my signature means something on those documents. And it was used without my authorization, without my understanding, and without, most importantly, that information. I would doubt that there are very many people that would accept that from the town that we care about. So I would request that the leaders of this town address that.
John, let me ask you a question. On the permits that I referred to where there were incomplete application forms, is there a liability for the town or liability for the board, or is there a liability personally for me if something untoward happens?
I guess I don't really understand what liability you speak of.
I have no idea what liabilities will come because we have issued permit for those who had incomplete papers submitted as their application.
Once again, I have no evidence of that tonight,
And then
unfortunately.
I guess I'm sure the health agent or the director can bring this information to you after looking through it.
Well,
That's.
KG, it's not that I don't,
I mean,
I'm not
looks
saying
like.
it's not valid,
look-
but you should produce it for me so I can, for
I-
the board, so we can talk about it.
I understand, but a question of liability can be posed without being solid evidences.
I have not heard from any business owner, and I frequent many businesses in the town of Ashland, that anybody has had any concerns about the permits. Has there been any calls
Not that I know of. I
made,
haven't had one
made to
call.
the office?
You haven't had one call, not one call has been received.
Has any other board member heard from any concern from any business owner? So, I mean, you can't say never, but I'm pretty confident that the only issue is with inside this own board.
Because as of today, I don't think they knew that there was incomplete application forms. Now today they know because there's a public statement made here by me. I have witnessed it, I have seen it, so that could arise. So it's not that I want that to arise, but I just wanted to make sure that the town is protected, the board is protected, and I'm protected legally. The other question that I have is that I just want to recollect on the previous meeting that we had. I understand these permits do come to the board annually, and in 2015-16, December, January, it never came to us. And this was a question that you addressed it to the agent right then and there. And I went back to December 9th, 2014 minutes. It clearly shows that
What was
those
the date
forms.
again? I'm sorry?
December 9th, 2014. I was not a member, but I did go down and look at the minutes. It does clearly state that these application forms do come, and they did vote on it, and Charlie did recuse himself at the time that I know it. So
And you admitted
if,
Yeah,
such as
we'll
at last
make
meeting?
sure that gets on the agenda for
so
December, November.
that was the statement I made, that this was made clear to us that this was not brought to the board at the time.
And we acknowledge that, I think. you
Acknowledge-
Right,
acknowledge that.
and then
Acknowledged
about
and-
15 minutes ago that you said that I'm bringing an accusation. That's not true, but I'm stating what was stated to me.
It's, if I may, Mr. Chair, it's how it's presented. It can be presented two different ways. It wasn't no intent to not do that. If the board remembers, the agendas were shortened quite a bit because of all the concern and turmoil that this board had to put up with, and a chair shortened the agenda. But was there intent to do that? No. What it was is it got missed because we were just trying to do minimum business that was taking hours.
Exactly.
And thank you, Madam Chair,
And,
from the past.
there-
Again, I know you'll jump on this, but there was
Yes.
no intent to
No,
do it
no-
improperly.
no one has
In
a-
fact, if you go back the other 31 years, you'll see it was done that way. But again, it will be done that way starting from this point on. I'm man enough to say, or person enough to say, if a mistake happens, I'll admit it. But when I'm falsely accused, all I
No.
can say is be prepared. Be prepared.
Nobody
Thank
has,
you.
Sounds like
nobody
a
has
threat.
accused you
No
falsely.
threat, just be prepared for me to respond
no one
to
has-
false accusations. Because you know what? You're on
John.
TV, you're in the public, and you will not disgrace me or defame me in the public.
John.
Be prepared.
John,
Yes.
no one has stated here that you intently did it or purposely did it.
Well,
This was not.
Think about what you just said
That's not what
earlier.
I've heard.
And
Who's
you
that?
too, Judy. Think
I'm
about
sorry-
how
I'm
you
sorry,
present
John.
yourselves.
John,
I'm all
people
done.
cannot make up statements here.
I would like to
We
speak
should be
to what,
adjourned at the
I would
time
like
we're
to
at.
speak to what
So, can
Mr.
can we
Orm.
finish up the motions here?
Well,
We
Mr.
have a-
Orm
thought
said
you
a
did.
lot of things, but we didn't
I
get a
thought you
chance
did
to
vote on it.
respond to them.
We have 'em-
Because we went for, one.
I thought that you-
Judy, I'm gonna
You're not
ask-
gonna let me
Judy, I'm gonna
respond to what
ask
he
you to
just
stop.
said?
I'm gonna ask you to
Okay,
stop.
but you know, the police,
Judy, I'm-
Mr. Orm called the police, so they're here, I cannot respond, so I will sit quietly.
John, I thought it's already voted on, wasn't it? The motion?
We have 2 more permits that we have not addressed.
Oh,
and we
you
would
don't
be-
have a motion on it yet. Did anybody, you vote?
I move that we approve any permits issued for on behalf of the Hindu temple,
I'll second it.
2016 year.
Further discussion?
I just wanted to add that I have not seen any of the items in the file, so I don't have the information to adequately move forward.
I have to recuse, and I'm recusing, please.
Seeing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And recused?
Myself?
I'm not recused, I'm
And you're abstaining?
abstaining, yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Have that, Laura? All right, and then we have one other permit out there for the Metro West Ministry.
I move that we approve the permit for the Metro West Ministry at Pleasant Street for the fiscal year 16-17.
I'll second that. Any discussion?
I have not seen the files with the information, I don't have adequate information to vote.
Yet you
And
referenced that
also-
same document this evening.
I referenced, I did not, excuse me.
Yes, you
that-
did, earlier in the
I
meeting.
referenced.
I think we have it on tape.
Excuse me, could I answer that? Because I'm not allowed to answer things, okay, when the accusations are made. What I referenced was the actual permit that I had gotten because I asked for my electronic signature copies. And I don't actually believe that they were copies, I believe that they were recreations, but I'm not positive on that, so I'm not clear. But I referenced a document that was a permit, which had the address as 280/350 Pleasant Street, with 5 signatures on it. That's what I referenced. I did not represent the application itself, which Massachusetts general law requires us to do due diligence on. I did not reference all of the, if there are, and I didn't see them on the materials that we were handed, I believe it was 4 weeks ago, of the inspections. I don't even see that there were inspections listed on that sheet. I could pull it out right now. But, you know, like, so this one here, I did not see Metro West Ministries on it.
All right, is there any
So
further, or
according to
anything more new
Massachusetts law, we
discussion
were
on?
supposed to have inspection reports, and I don't see them on the documents that we were passed out a couple weeks ago.
Seeing no, KG?
Jen, I do feel that we are lacking information on inspections, and that which has been a big issue for me for the past 1 year. And
But is
it-
that
it-
relevant to this move?
no, in general, I'm talking about any food permit. I think we need to have some kind of data available to us to make intelligent decision. Not that I have any issue
I would
with
agree, that's a valid point.
so that has not come forth. And it's unreasonable to expect the board members to come and sit down there and then go through the computer every time. You know, it's better for them to have a spreadsheet with detailed information, and I wish that comes
We made a lot of
through.
progress on that last week. And we can.
To somewhat,
and
to
we
somewhat.
And we
It-
can
it-
get better
I-
as we
I-
go forward, yep.
I'm happy for that, but we need to improve on that one. So,
And I don't
Right.
disagree with you
Yeah.
on that. Any other further discussion?
I'm not sure if Charlie wants to comment whether there actually had been inspections done, if he wants to do that as a citizen.
I don't think that's fair to Charlie, Mr. Chair. You know, he should be recusing himself.
Ask
I can
him
let the board
as a
know, as
citizen.
the health agent, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost, some board members may know that we are also risk-based here in Ashland. And churches are on the lower end of the risk base, especially if it's just a setup kitchen, which this one is. So they don't get the inspections that your full-service restaurants may get. Or if we have a facility that needs more than 2 inspections a year. We're risk-based, and unfortunately, I guess, I hope someday the board will come in and ask me questions on that, because I know it was brought up earlier, that another town was that we weren't. We are. And so churches and places such as convenience stores are not as they're not inspected as often as others, but I can recommend approval of this permit based on my observations there. And I would have to look back at the last inspection, but they're setup kitchens. They're not operating kitchens. They basically coffee, tea, just like our churches throughout the town. There is one Hindu temple. They prepare more than most churches do. But that's the only one I know of that has almost like a full-service kitchen. With that said, I would recommend approval of the permit. as
I know that's
presented,
being inspected quite well.
I would thank you,
based on
for
the
the,
use.
I would thank you for that reference to the risk-based
You're welcome.
inspections, because this was a 2011 document, and it is quite interesting, yet it doesn't override the need for twice annual inspections, less if it's not high risk, not
right.
less than two, but less than what you might do somewhere else. So for instance, Sherburne.
Can we get back to the motion? Because this isn't part of the motion, so.
Okay,
we have a
I
we have a
agree, but
motion and
Mr.
discussion.
Orm did take it in that direction. I don't see it on this document that we were passed out. I don't see Metro West Ministries at all on this,
They
as
may not
having
be.
had any inspections.
Not the past year, maybe not, because I spoke to Diane and she didn't know for sure if she had done it. So unfortunately, they may have been the year before. But again, it's a setup kitchen, no preparation, and I would recommend approval of this permit, and it will be inspected this year.
Yet state law requires.
Again, it's on a
In
risk-based, and I
several
would be glad
places
to
that-
talk to the, well, if I can finish, see, again, I'm
Okay,
talking,
it's
an
fine. I will
interruption,
wait.
and it's all good because it's all on tape, and it's being recorded too on TV, so people can see the actions that occur here. But again, it's on risk-based. I've offered this to all the board members. Please come down. It's that easy. I love to educate, and I'd be glad to educate. That's what it's about, so we're all productive. I'd love to educate everyone here, maybe on the past, because every person here hasn't been here. Maybe Mary's the only one that's been here as long as I have. And I'd be glad to go over everything we do and offer, again, as KG was the only new board member that took the course with MAHB. That's an excellent
That's
course for the
incorrect.
members last year.
That's
And
incorrect.
so anyways,
That's
Mr.
incorrect.
Chair, I apologize, but again, I just
So
want to offer
let's get
that.
back to the
Look,
motion at
Mr.
hand.
Orem
Let's
once
get-
again gets to talk, and I don't get to respond.
Judy,
What he
I
just
would
said
dare
about
say that you've spoken
MAHP
more
is
than everybody this
wrong.
evening.
John,
So I don't think that's accurate. So we
No,
have a motion on the table, it's
complete
been seconded, I'm gonna call the
comments,
vote.
complete
I'm gonna call the
comments.
vote.
can you give me
Oh.
1 second to
can't-
make one
yeah,
remark, if you don't
discussions,
mind?
discussion.
Please make it on topic, or
Sure.
I am gonna move the
It's
vote.
on the risk-based topic.
That's
that
not
he
part of
gave.
the motion.
No, it's not.
It's not
Moving
part of the
the vote
motion. So we
requires
have
4 members
all
to
in
vote.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
I'm
You're recusing, and you're abstaining?
I'm abstaining.
Okay. So we have a 3 positive votes, so that one moves. Okay. Seeing no other business?
Can I make that statement here now, if you don't mind, on the risk-based?
If it's on the agenda, it's 6:55.
Oh, yes, I'd like to make a motion also that we set up the
Can I-
We have a
committee.
motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All- Yes, please.
Forgive me for being
Just-
late.
Just come to the podium if you would, please.
May I address the board?
Yes, please.
I
Respect.
have 1 sentence to address the board, and I will not be taking questions. My name is John Francis Blake. I've been in town a little while. I live on 3 Graybridge Road, Ashland, Massachusetts. I am here to tell the board that I am starting a recall petition on, right at the moment, 1 member. That member is Judith Margulis.
Margulies.
Margulies. Thank you. Have a
I'm
good
sorry,
night.
what was your name?
Thank you. Have a good evening. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Further discussion on the motion?
Adjourn needs
Next
a
meeting,
discussion.
John?
Our next meeting will be on July 7th to address Mr. Morgan's open meeting law complaint and other public health issues, so that's
Yeah,
at the time.
yeah, I
Would
will
we
update
be
the board.
submitting to you agenda items?
We're only going to be addressing Mr. Morgan's open meeting complaint and any other town business that pertains to the Board of Health.
So,
Question.
health issues.
Health issues, sure.
John, I have a question here. We did allow the citizens to participate, which is a good thing to do, but if we didn't put it in the agenda, would that become an open meeting law violation at all, or no?
I don't know the answer to that, but I think this, if we make an issue out of it and not hear what our citizens have to say, I think that then
I know,
then we're wrong.
I do agree that we need to put it in, but if we have to comply with it, it's better to make a practice to put it on
It's
if you
a
can.
choice of the chair that I let Mr. Blake speak, so.
Okay, oh, that's fine.
Mr.
I have no problem
And
with
Mr.
people
Desaune-
speaking, but I
Mr.
would like to hear from
Mr.
the
Desauni's
citizens.
always welcome to speak at any
Fine.
meeting in the town of
And
Ashland.
would you kindly check with Lisa Mead to make sure that we don't falter again with the open meeting law?
Mark, can you?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. And the
And
other thing
maybe we
is,
can
are
make
we
it a-
adjourned yet, Mr. Chair?
We are
or-
not. We have a
Okay.
motion and a second. All in favor?
Well, may I ask?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you and good evening.
Wonder what happened.